Please, pretend to be my daughter for just one day, the dying millionaire whispered, his trembling hand clutching Rachel's wrist. Rachel froze, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and fading hope. Mr. Hamilton's eyes, sunken from sickness, locked onto hers with a desperation she'd never seen before. Why her? Why now? What kind of man asks a stranger to play his daughter? The questions swirled in her mind, pulling her into a mystery she wasn't sure she could handle. But something in his voice-a-raw, broken, yearning made her stay. What was Mr. Hamilton hiding? And what would Rachel risk to grant his dying wish? Rachel's sneakers squeaked on the cracked pavement as she hurried to catch the late-night bus. The Lagos city lights flickered like stars fighting to be seen through the smog. Her nurse's uniform clung to her skin, damp from a 12-hour shift at St. Mary's Hospital. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, and she sighed, knowing who it was before she even looked. "Mama?" Rachel said, pressing the phone to her ear. Her voice was soft but heavy, like a blanket weighed down by rain. "Rachel, my dear, how are you holding up?" Her mother's voice crackled through the line, laced with worry. "I'm fine, Mama. Just tired. How's everyone at home?" Rachel asked, dodging the truth. She didn't want to admit how her bones ached, how her heart felt like it was carrying a mountain. "We're managing, but your brother's school fees are due again, and the landlord keeps knocking." Her mother's voice broke, and Rachel's stomach twisted. "I'll send money tomorrow," Rachel promised, her throat tight. She was only 25, but she felt like she'd lived 100 years. After her father died 3 years ago, she'd become the breadwinner for her mother, her younger brother, and her sick little sister. Every kobo she earned went to them, leaving her with nothing but dreams she couldn't afford. As the bus rumbled through the noisy streets of Ikeja, Rachel stared out the window, her reflection a ghost in the glass. She loved her family, but the weight of their needs was crushing her. And at work, things weren't much better. Christina, a fellow nurse, seemed to have it out for her, always whispering snide comments about Rachel's worn-out shoes or her village girl accent. Rachel ignored her, but each jab stung like a needle. What happens when the one person keeping everyone afloat starts to drown? Chapter 2: Eviction and Despair. The next morning, Rachel's world cracked open like an egg. She dragged herself home after another grueling shift, her eyes burning from lack of sleep. As she climbed the creaky stairs to her tiny one-room apartment, she saw her landlord, Mr. Chukwu, standing at her door, arms crossed, his face hard as stone. "You're 3 months behind on rent, Rachel," he barked. "Pack your things. You're out by tonight." Rachel's heart stopped. "Please, sir, give me 1 more week. I'll pay, I swear." Her voice trembled, but Mr. Chukwu's eyes were cold. "No more excuses. You think I run a charity? Out!" He turned and stomped away, leaving Rachel standing in the hallway, her bag slipping from her shoulder. She sank to the floor, her hands shaking. 3 months. How had it come to this? She'd sent every spare naira to her family, thinking she could stretch her landlord's patience. Now she was homeless, with nowhere to go, and no one to turn to. The city felt like a giant hand squeezing her chest, making it hard to breathe. Where do you go when the world turns its back on you? Rachel's fingers trembled as she dialed Emily's number. Emily was her best friend, her rock, the one person who could make her laugh even when the world felt like it was collapsing. "Rachel, what's wrong?" Emily's voice was warm, like a hug through the phone. I got evicted," Rachel whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I don't know what to do." "Stay where you are. I'm coming to get you," Emily said without hesitation. 30 minutes later, Emily's battered Toyota pulled up outside Rachel's building. Emily's father, Mr. Ade, was in the driver's seat, his kind eyes crinkling as he waved at Rachel. "Come, my dear, you're not alone," he said. Rachel climbed into the car, her single bag of belongings clutched to her chest. Emily reached over and squeezed her hand. "You're staying with us. No arguments." At Emily's family home in Surulere, Rachel was welcomed like a long-lost daughter. Mrs. Ade, Emily's mother, set a plate of jollof rice in front of her, the spicy aroma making Rachel's stomach rumble. Benny, Emily's little brother, bounced around, telling silly jokes to make her smile. For the first time in days, Rachel felt a flicker of warmth in her chest, like a candle lit in a dark room. But that night, as she lay on the couch in Emily's living room, the weight of her problems crashed back. "I'm so tired, Emily," she whispered, her voice breaking. "It feels like problems just keep piling up. I'm trying to hold everyone together, but what about me? What if I can't keep going?" Emily sat beside her, pulling her into a hug. "You're not alone, Rachel. We're your family too. We'll figure this out together." Rachel's tears soaked Emily's shoulder. But for the first time, they weren't just tears of pain. They were tears of relief, of knowing someone cared. Can a friend's love be enough to keep you standing when the world tries to knock you down? The next day, Rachel and Emily walked into St. Mary's Hospital for their morning shift, their white uniforms crisp against the chaos of the emergency ward. The hospital was a whirlwind of beeping machines, hurried footsteps, and patients' cries. Rachel loved her job. She loved helping people, seeing their faces light up when they felt cared for. But the long hours and constant pressure were wearing her down. And then there was Christina. Christina strutted through the ward like she owned it, her nose in the air because her aunt was the head nurse, Miss Carter. "Rachel, your uniform looks like it's been through a war," Christina sneered as she passed by, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Rachel's cheeks burned, but she bit her tongue. She couldn't afford to make enemies, not when she was already on thin ice with money and housing. Emily, however, wasn't so quiet. "Ignore her," she whispered. "She's just jealous because you're a better nurse." But Christina's taunts weren't the only storm brewing. That afternoon, Emily leaned over during a break, her eyes sparkling with gossip. "Have you heard about the new patient on the 4th floor? Mr. Hamilton. They say he's a millionaire, but he's mean as a snake. Threw a cup at a nurse yesterday because his water wasn't cold enough." Rachel shrugged, too tired to care about hospital rumors. But something about the name Mr. Hamilton stuck in her mind, like a song she couldn't shake. What kind of man throws a cup at a nurse? And why does his name feel like a warning? Chapter 5. A Glimpse of Vulnerability. 2 days later, Rachel's life took a turn she never expected. She was sent to the 4th floor to deliver some paperwork, her heart racing as she neared Mr. Hamilton's room. The other nurses' stories echoed in her head tales of his temper, his sharp tongue, his refusal to let anyone close. She knocked softly and stepped inside. The room was dim, the curtains drawn. Mr. Hamilton sat in a wheelchair, his thin frame swallowed by a hospital gown. His face was pale, his eyes like storm clouds. But when he looked at Rachel, something shifted. His scowl softened, just for a moment. "You're new," he said, his voice rough but curious. "I'm Rachel, sir, just bringing your chart." She set the papers on the table, her hands steady despite the knot in her stomach. He watched her closely, like he was searching for something. "You're not scared of me," he said, almost surprised. Rachel smiled, small but genuine. "I'm a nurse, sir. I'm here to help, not to judge." Mr. Hamilton's eyes flickered with something grief, maybe, or regret. "I'm useless now," he muttered, his hands clenching the arms of his wheelchair. "Can't even stand without help. What's a man worth when he's got nothing left?" Rachel's heart ached. She knelt beside him, her voice soft. "Sir, your worth isn't tied to your strength. It's in your heart, in the things you've done, the people you've touched." He looked at her, his eyes glistening. For the first time, Rachel saw past the rumors. This wasn't a monster. This was a man carrying a pain too heavy for words. What secrets was Mr. Hamilton hiding behind his angry mask? That evening, Rachel sat on the bus, her mind spinning. Mr. Hamilton's words echoed in her head, mixing with her own fears. She pulled out her phone and called her mother, needing to hear her voice. "Rachel, you sound tired," her mother said, her tone heavy with concern. "You're doing too much. I feel guilty asking for money all the time." "Don't, Mama," Rachel said, forcing a smile into her voice. "It's my job to take care of you. I promised Dad I would." But as she hung up, her chest tightened. She was trying to be everything: nurse, daughter, sister, provider, but it felt like she was failing at all of it. Her mother's cough was getting worse, her brother's school fees were overdue, and her little sister's medicine was running low. And now, she was homeless, relying on Emily's family to keep her off the streets. Back at Emily's house, Rachel broke down. "I don't know how much longer I can do this," she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm scared, Emily. What if I let everyone down?" Emily hugged her tight. "You're the strongest person I know, Rachel. You're not letting anyone down. You're carrying them all." But Rachel wasn't so sure. How much can one heart carry before it breaks? The next morning, Rachel's world tilted again. She was in the nurse's station, checking patient charts, when Miss Carter, the head nurse, called her over. "Rachel, you're being reassigned," she said, her tone sharp. Rachel's stomach dropped. "Reassigned? To where?" "To Mr. Hamilton. He specifically asked for you to be his nurse." Rachel's mouth went dry. "Me? But why?" Miss Carter raised an eyebrow. "Does it matter? He's a difficult patient, but he trusts you. Don't mess this up." Rachel wanted to argue, to beg for another assignment. The stories about Mr. Hamilton's temper made her skin crawl. But she had no choice. In a hospital where connections like Christina's ruled, Rachel was just a small fish in a big pond. As she walked to Mr. Hamilton's room, her hands shook. She didn't know what to expect, but she knew one thing. This assignment would change everything. Why did Mr. Hamilton choose Rachel? And what did he want from her? Rachel stepped into Mr. Hamilton's room, her heart thudding. The chart in her hands told a grim story. Stage 4. Pancreatic cancer, severe pain, weakness, weight loss, no appetite. Chemotherapy had failed, and he'd chosen palliative care to ease his final days. "Rachel," Mr. Hamilton said, his voice softer than before. "You came back." "Of course, sir," she said, checking his IV line. "I'm your nurse now." He watched her work, his eyes following her every move. "You're different," he said. "The others, they look at me like I'm already dead, but you see me." Rachel's throat tightened. "I see a man who's fighting, sir. That's what I see." He chuckled, but it turned into a cough, his face twisting in pain. Rachel adjusted his pillow, her touch gentle. "You're in pain," she said softly. "Let me help." As she gave him his medication, Mr. Hamilton spoke, his voice low. "I was too busy chasing money. Built an empire, but lost everything that mattered. My wife, my daughter." His voice cracked, and he looked away. Rachel's heart ached. "What happened to them?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He shook his head, his eyes distant. "I wasn't there when they needed me, and now I'm alone." Rachel reached out, her hand resting on his. "You're not alone, sir. I'm here." What tragedy had broken Mr. Hamilton's heart? And why was he opening up to Rachel? Over the next week, Rachel became Mr. Hamilton's anchor. She brought him meals, adjusted his bed, and listened to his stories. He told her about his life, how he'd built a real estate empire in Lagos, how he'd once thought money could fix anything, but his voice always grew heavy when he spoke of his daughter Anna. "I failed her," he said one evening, staring out the window at the city lights. "She was 16, got into trouble, and I was too busy to notice. She ran away, and then—" He stopped, his hands trembling. "She was in a car accident. Didn't make it." Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry, sir." He looked at her, his gaze intense. "You remind me of her, your kindness, your strength. Anna was like that." Rachel didn't know what to say. She felt a strange connection to this man, like their hearts were tied by invisible threads. But she also felt the weight of his pain, and it scared her. Could Rachel heal a wound so deep, or would it pull her under too? Rachel's bond with Mr. Hamilton didn't go unnoticed. At the nurse's station, her colleagues whispered, some with admiration, others with jealousy. "How did she tame the lion?" one nurse asked. "She's got magic in her hands," another said. But Christina wasn't impressed. "She's just sucking up to him," she hissed to a group of nurses. "Probably wants his money." Rachel overheard, her face burning. She wanted to confront Christina, to scream that she was only doing her job, but Emily pulled her away. "Don't let her get to you," Emily said. "She's just mad because you're better than her." But Christina's words lingered, like poison in the air. Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that trouble was coming. That night, as she sat with Mr. Hamilton, he looked at her with a strange intensity. "Rachel," he said, his voice low, "I need to ask you something. Something big." Her heart skipped a beat. "What is it, sir?" He leaned forward, his eyes searching hers. "For one day, will you pretend to be my daughter? I just want to feel what it's like to be a father again. Before I go—" Rachel's breath caught. The room seemed to spin, the weight of his words pressing down on her. What would you do if a dying man asked you to play his lost child? Rachel's decision to grant Mr. Hamilton's wish will pull her into a world of secrets, betrayal, and life-changing choices. What is Mr. Hamilton hiding about his past? How will Christina's jealousy threaten Rachel's future? And what shocking truth will turn Rachel's life upside down? Rachel's heart screamed no, but her lips whispered yes. Mr. Hamilton's request hung in the air like a storm cloud, heavy and impossible to ignore. Pretend to be his daughter? For one day? Rachel's mind raced as she stood in his hospital room, the beeping of the heart monitor matching the frantic beat of her pulse. His eyes, tired and pleading, held a pain she couldn't turn away from. She thought of her own father, gone too soon, and the hole he'd left in her life. Could she give this dying man one moment of peace? "I'll do it," she said softly, her voice trembling. "I'll be your daughter for a day." "Mr." Hamilton's face lit up, a spark of joy breaking through his usual gloom. "Thank you, Rachel," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You don't know what this means." But as Rachel left his room, a chill ran down her spine. Something told her this promise would change her life forever, and not all changes are good. What would a day as Mr. Hamilton's daughter bring? And what secrets was he still hiding? The next morning, Rachel arrived at St. Mary's Hospital with a knot in her stomach. She'd barely slept, her mind tangled with questions. Why did Mr. Hamilton want this? What did he expect? But as she helped him into a wheelchair, his smile was so bright it pushed her doubts aside. "I want to go outside," he said, his voice stronger than she'd ever heard. "Take me to the places Anna loved." With Miss Carter's approval, Rachel wheeled Mr. Hamilton out of the hospital, the Lagos sun warm on their faces. The city buzzed around them, honking cars, shouting vendors, the smell of fried plantain in the air. They started at a small park in Acadia, where Mr. Hamilton said Anna used to play as a child. She'd run through the grass, laughing like the world was hers, he said, his eyes far away. Rachel pushed his wheelchair along the path, her heart aching as she imagined a little girl with pigtails, chasing butterflies. They stopped at a bench under a mango tree. Mr. Hamilton pointed to a spot where Anna once fell and scraped her knee. "I wasn't there," he said, his voice breaking. "I was always working, building my empire. I thought money would make her happy, but all she wanted was me." Rachel knelt beside him, her hand on his. "She knew you loved her, sir. Kids always know." He looked at her, tears in his eyes. "You're too kind, Rachel. Too kind for a man like me." Their next stop was an ice cream parlor near the park, its faded sign reading Sweet Heaven. Mr. Hamilton ordered 2 Conch chocolate for him, strawberry for Rachel, just like he used to get for Anna. As they sat outside, licking their melting ice cream, he laughed for the first time since Rachel met him. It was a small, fragile sound, but it warmed her heart like the sun. "This is what I missed," he said, his voice soft. "Moments like this. Thank you, Rachel, for giving me one more." Rachel smiled, but her chest tightened. This day felt like a gift, but it also felt like a goodbye. Could a single day heal a lifetime of regret? Or was it just a fleeting dream? As the sun began to set, Mr. Hamilton insisted on one last stop. A small bookstore tucked between a barber shop and a tailor's stall. The shelves were crammed with books, their pages yellowed and dusty. Mr. Hamilton's eyes lit up as he pointed to a worn copy of The Little Prince. "Anna loved this book," he said. "I used to read it to her when she was small. I want you to have it." Rachel shook her head. "Sir, I can't take that. It's too special." But he was stubborn. "It's a gift, Rachel. For today. For everything." He paid for the book, and with a trembling hand, wrote a note inside the cover. To Rachel, who gave an old man one perfect day. Thank you. Rachel's eyes stung as she read it. She hugged the book to her chest, feeling its weight not just the paper, but the love and pain it carried. As they returned to the hospital, Mr. Hamilton looked at her, his face peaceful. I've waited so long for a day like this, he said. You've given me something I thought I'd lost forever. Rachel's throat was too tight to speak. She wheeled him back to his room, her heart full and heavy at the same time. As she said goodnight, she glanced back from the doorway. He was sitting on his bed, gazing at her with a gentle smile, like a father watching his child. What did this day mean to Mr. Hamilton? And why did Rachel feel like it wasn't over? The next morning, Rachel woke with a smile, her heart still warm from the day before. She could still taste the strawberry ice cream, hear Mr. Hamilton's laugh. For the first time in weeks, she felt light, like maybe she could carry her burdens a little longer. But when she walked into the hospital, Miss Carter's face stopped her cold. The head nurse's eyes were red, her lips pressed tight. Rachel, she said, her voice low. Mr. Hamilton is gone. Rachel's world tilted. Gone? What do you mean, gone? He had a heart attack last night, Miss Carter said. He didn't make it. The words hit Rachel like a fist. She shook her head, her breath coming in short gasps. No, that's not possible. I was with him yesterday. He was happy. He was... Her voice broke, and she ran to his room, her sneakers pounding the linoleum. The room was empty. The bed was stripped, the machine silent. Rachel sank to her knees, sobs tearing through her. She clutched the little prince to her chest, its pages crumpling under her fingers. He was gone. The man who'd become like a father to her, who trusted her with his heart, was gone. How do you say goodbye to someone you only just found? Rachel tried to bury her grief in work, but the hospital was a minefield. Christina's jealousy had turned into something darker. At the nurse's station, Rachel overheard her whispering to a group of colleagues. Rachel was too close to that old man, Christina said, her voice dripping with venom. Who knows what she did to get his attention? Maybe she was after his money. Rachel's blood ran cold. She stepped forward, her fists clenched. That's a lie, Christina, and you know it. I cared for him because it was my job, because he was human. Christina smirked, unfazed. Sure, Rachel, that's what they all say. Emily, who'd been listening nearby, grabbed Rachel's arm. Don't, she whispered. She's not worth it. But the rumors spread like wildfire. Nurses who'd once smiled at Rachel now looked at her with suspicion. She felt like a stranger in the place she'd worked so hard to belong. And worst of all, the pain of losing Mr. Hamilton was now tangled with shame she didn't deserve. That night, Rachel cried herself to sleep on Emily's couch, the book from Mr. Hamilton under her pillow. I didn't do anything wrong, she whispered to the dark. Why does it feel like I did? How do you fight lies when the truth is all you have? 2 days later, Emily stormed into the living room, her eyes blazing. Rachel, you won't believe this, she said, her voice shaking with anger. I heard it myself at the nurse's station. Christina made it all up. She's been spreading lies about you to ruin you. Rachel's heart sank. She'd known Christina disliked her, but this was cruel. Why? She asked, her voice small. What did I ever do to her? Emily sat beside her, her face fierce. She's jealous, Rachel. You're kind. You're good at your job. And Mr. Hamilton trusted you. She couldn't stand it. The next day, Rachel walked into the hospital with her head high, determined not to let Christina win. But before she could confront her, Miss Carter called her into her office. Christina was there, her face pale, her usual smirk gone. Christina, Miss Carter said, her voice like steel. Is it true you've been spreading rumors about Rachel and Mr. Hamilton? Christina stammered, her eyes darting. I didn't mean. Enough, Miss Carter snapped. You've crossed a line. Slander is serious, and you'll face consequences. Rachel watched, her heart pounding. Part of her felt sorry for Christina, who looked small and scared. But another part felt free, like a weight had been lifted. The truth was out, and she could breathe again. Can justice heal a wounded heart, or is the damage already done? A week later, Rachel was still reeling from Mr. Hamilton's death. and the drama with Christina. She was checking patient charts when a man in a sharp suit approached her. "Miss Rachel?" he said, holding a briefcase. "I'm Mr. Okoye, Mr. Hamilton's lawyer. Can we speak privately?" Rachel's stomach twisted. A lawyer? What now? She followed him to a quiet corner of the hospital, her heart racing. "Mr. Hamilton left you something in his will," Mr. Okoye said, opening his briefcase. "A substantial portion of his estate." Rachel's jaw dropped. "What? No, that can't be right. I was just his nurse." Mr. Okoye handed her a letter, written in Mr. Hamilton's shaky handwriting. She opened it, her hands trembling. "Dear Rachel, you gave me the greatest gift today to feel like a father again. Your kindness reminded me what it means to be human. I have no family left, but you became mine. I'm leaving you my house in Victoria Island, my savings, and my shares in Hamilton Properties. Use them to build the life you deserve. Live for yourself, not just for others. With love, James Hamilton." Rachel's vision blurred with tears. The estate was worth millions enough to change her life, her family's life, forever. But more than the money, it was his words that broke her. He'd seen her, truly seen her, in a way no one else had. Why would a man with no one left give everything to a stranger? As Rachel sat with the letter, Mr. Okoye cleared his throat. "There's something else," he said, his voice hesitant. "Mr. Hamilton had a secret he wanted you to know." Rachel's heart skipped a beat. "What secret?" Mr. Okoye lowered his voice. "Anna, his daughter. She didn't die in that car accident. She survived, but she ran away from home after a fight with her father. He spent years looking for her, but she vanished. He believed she was still out there, somewhere." Rachel's mind reeled. Anna was alive? Then why had Mr. Hamilton told her she was dead? "He saw Anna in you," Mr. Okoye continued. "Your kindness, your strength, it was like having her back. That's why he chose you for that day, and why he left you everything. He hoped, in some way, it would make up for failing her." Rachel's legs felt weak. The day she'd spent with Mr. Hamilton wasn't just about closurette, was his way of rewriting the past, of fixing a mistake he could never undo. She felt a mix of awe and sorrow, knowing she'd carried his daughter's ghost without even realizing it. What do you do when you're given a gift meant for someone else? Rachel stood at Mr. Hamilton's grave, a bouquet of Lilish's favorite in her hands. The cemetery was quiet, the Lagos skyline shimmering in the distance. She knelt by the headstone, her fingers tracing his name. "I never expected this," she whispered, tears falling. "You gave me so much, not just money, but hope. I promise I'll use it well. I'll make you proud." She wiped her eyes, a new strength settling in her chest. The tears weren't just grief now. They were gratitude, determination, a promise to live better. Back at Emily's house, Rachel made a plan. She moved her mother, brother, and sister into the Victoria Island house, a mansion with tall gates and a garden that made her sister giggle with joy. She paid off her brother's school fees and bought medicine for her mother's cough. For the first time, her family was together, safe and whole. But Rachel didn't stop there. She opened a small flower shop in Surulere, naming it Lily's Bloom after Mr. Hamilton's favorite flower. She hired Emily to help run it, a thank you for her friend's unwavering support. Next, she started a restaurant, Anna's Place, serving jollof rice and ice cream in honor of the daughter Mr. Hamilton had lost. Every day, Rachel worked as a nurse, her heart full of purpose. She'd learned from Mr. Hamilton that wealth wasn't money, it was kindness, love, and giving back. She visited his grave often, leaving lilies and whispering thanks. Can a single act of kindness change the world? One afternoon, as Rachel arranged flowers in her shop, a woman walked in. She was about Rachel's age, with tired eyes and a cautious smile. "Are you Rachel?" she asked, her voice soft. "Yes," Rachel said, wiping her hands on her apron. "Can I help you?" The woman hesitated, then pulled out a worn photo. It was Mr. Hamilton younger, smiling with a teenage girl. "I'm Anna," she said, her voice breaking. "James Hamilton was my father." Rachel's heart stopped. Anna. Alive. standing in front of her. "I heard about you," Anna said, tears in her eyes. "How you cared for him, gave him that day. I ran away years ago, angry, hurt. I didn't know he was sick until it was too late. But you gave him what I couldn't." Rachel's eyes filled with tears. She stepped forward and hugged Anna, the two women crying together. "He loved you," Rachel whispered. "He never stopped." Anna nodded, clutching the photo. "I know, and he loved you too. What happens when the past you thought was gone walks through the door?" Rachel and Anna sat in the flower shop, talking for hours. Anna shared stories of her father, the good, the bad. The man he'd been before regret consumed him. Rachel told her about their day together, the ice cream, the book, the laughter. They cried, laughed, and healed together, two women bound by a man who'd changed their lives. Rachel offered to share the inheritance, but Anna shook her head. "He gave it to you for a reason," she said. "You're his daughter too, in your own way." As the sun set, Rachel stood in her shop, surrounded by lilies and the hum of Lagos life. She thought of Mr. Hamilton, of his pain and his gift. She thought of her family, now safe and happy. She thought of Anna, who'd found her way home. And she thought of herself, not just a nurse, not just a breadwinner, but a woman who'd learned to live for herself too. Rachel closed her eyes, a smile on her face. "Thank you, Mr. Hamilton," she whispered, "for showing me what really matters." The true value of riches wasn't money. It was kindness, love, and the courage to keep going, no matter what. And so, Rachel's story ends not with an end, but with a new beginning. A life built on love, forged by one perfect day.